Welcome to the Freedom in the City Festival of Learning. My name is Jennifer Sharratt, and I'm very blessed to be the producer of this amazing festival, led by our director, Dr. Sean Sobers, whose vision and determination has brought this festival into reality, influenced by his many years of being connected to Fairfield House in his research and his personal connection to Haile Selassie's legacy. The festival is supported and funded by UE and AHRC, with partners Fairfield House, Bemska, Bath Black Families and Bath Abbey. Freedom in the City Festival is a celebration and an examination of the history connected to Haile Selassie's time living in Bath, bringing together all the voices surrounding this history and the Emperor's legacy, and celebrating and showcasing the different narratives attached to the history. This, of course, includes the Ethiopian diaspora, Rastafari communities and the wider Bath local communities. In the city of Bath, usually known for its Georgian heritage, it stands out as a celebration of Black history and culture, bringing new perspectives to the dominant worldview of Bath's heritage. If you're new to the festival, please catch up with some of our interesting lectures and talks on our Crowdcast page. Details will be in the chat shortly. The festival has ranged from talks around Haile Selassie's time in Bath, a showing of Dr. Sobers' film Footsteps of the Emperor, where Benjamin Zephaniah paid us a visit, to a live opera by Joanna Gombe, as well as lectures that focus on images of St. George and traditional Ethiopian art with Ayub Darilio. Talks have ranged from Pauline Swaby's amazing talking about her time with Bemska, through to the history and theology of Rastafari with Ras Shango, and mystical connections between Bath and Ethiopia by Ras Benji, along with many more events. If you've missed any of these talks, please take a look on our Crowdcast sites, where you can catch up and find out what else the festival has in store. So what a fantastic talk we have in store tonight with the artist Rediat Abayneh. Rediat is an animator, filmmaker and digital artist based in Bristol. Her work is inspired by the culture, stories and art of Ethiopia and Eritrea, as well as her own day-to-day experiences. She works with digital paintings and animation, as well as running creative workshops for young people. Rediat also works for Aardman. In addition to that, she's also our festival logo designer. So have a look at our festival logo, and that was Rediat's design. So this evening, we'll have a chance to see some of Rediat's work and ask her questions around her practice and her influences. If you have any questions for Rediat, please direct them in the Ask a Question section at the bottom of your screens. So now I'm honoured to introduce you to Rediat Abayneh.
Okay. Thank you so much for the introduction, Jennifer. And thank you so much for having me as part of this amazing festival. I'm really, really thankful. So tonight, what I'll just do is I'll tell you a little bit about my background and just show you some of the creative works I have been doing. And if you've got any question, I'm happy to answer. So my name is Rediat. It's pronounced as in the color red and number 8, so red 8. I'm originally from Ethiopia. I grew up in the capital city of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. And my childhood, the culture that I grew up, the tradition influences me a lot with my artwork and in general, like in life, in the way I see the world. I came to the UK, well, before I came to the UK as a child, I was interested in the creative world. I used to do acting in my church. I used to write Amharic poem, interested in the general creative world. But as well as that, I was also interested in everything I see. If there is an Olympic, the next morning I will be running around the house. And if I see a film inspires about, I don't know, maybe medical, then the next thing I want to be a doctor. So I was everywhere as a child. But when I came to England, that was in 2010, I came here as a refugee. I traveled via France. There is a short film I made called 25 Days of My Life. It's on YouTube, because we're not talking about my journey tonight. we're talking about art. But if you're interested and wants to find out about that, you can find the film on YouTube. It's called 25 Days of My Life. So when I came to the UK, I have been supported, the last 11 years, I have been supported with my career a lot. And I studied art and design at college. And as well as going to college, I used to go to this refugee youth club called Riverside in Kent. And they used to do lots of interesting workshops, from cooking, physical activities, and creative workshops. And one day we did a stop motion animation workshop, and that was like an eye-opening event for me. I started being really interested in animation, started doing experimenting, and then I decided to do animation. When I finished college, I went to UE, University of the West of England. I moved to Bristol in 2013 to study my degree in animation. And then I did animation, and then I graduated in 2016. But that wasn't it. It wasn't, just like many graduates, finding a job in animation was not that easy. I had to explore different things after graduating. So since 2016, I have been freelancing until now. So that would be about 5 years. And it's like the little Rediat came back with being interested in everything, but this time just in the creative world. So I have been making films, doing digital illustrations, and even though I specialized in CG animation when I was at uni, but I have been doing 2D animations, stop motion animations. So I have been everywhere. So what I'm going to do tonight is instead of talking at you, I'll show you some of the works I have been doing the last 5 years. Let me just do a screen share. Hopefully you can see my screen. So what do I do? It's when people ask me, I actually find it easy to say. I don't know, what do I say? Do I say I'm animator, filmmaker, asset coordinator? It's a bit tricky for me. So one of the things I do is I am interested and I love doing digital illustrations. And my digital illustrations mostly are inspired by my own story, my culture, Ethiopian history, and the style is inspired by the ancient Ethiopian and Eritrean paintings, the character design, the color, the texture, and everything. And I did an exhibition called My Ethiopia that was in 2017, which was a series of illustrations that tells a story of what it was like to grow up in Addis Ababa about years ago. I was a child, and it tells a story of the things that used to be normal back then. That's not part of my life anymore. And some of things are mixed. Some of the things are things that makes me smile. I've got some few examples to show you. So this painting titled Afashilling. I think lots of people relate to this, especially anyone who grew up in this. It was very, very common to get your friends or siblings help you wash your hair. I used to do this a lot to my brother. He'd go to play football in the morning and he would come back, and then he would always ask us to help him wash his hair. And this one is another interesting painting. I'm not sure if they still do it in Addis, but back then, if you go to a shop to buy an egg, the shopkeeper has to check each egg. If they don't check it, I used to say, oh, make sure you check my egg. So these kinds of things, back then, they were just absolutely normal. But now when I think about it, it just makes me smile. And these are meant to be women mourning. So normally Ethiopian women wear this white scarf, but the patterns are usually down the knee. but when they're mourning, grieving, sad, they wear it upside down. Lots of culture wear black clothes normally. We do as well. But one of the sign, well, one of the visual communication that they use to say that they are mourning is to put their, it's called the netala, upside down. This is also again inspired by ancient Ethiopian paintings, like a storyboard telling a story step by step. So the one I did tells a process of a wedding ceremony. So here you can see them falling in love, and then they go and ask the father for permission to marry her. So I'm not going to go in every detail. Again, you can find this on my Instagram account. It is also displayed beautifully framed at the Fairfield House in Bath. If you go there, you should be able to see it. So these are the kind of illustrations I do, as well as the character design, the colors. I have also thought about how to present it because this is more like digital, this is more like modern, but I wanted to bring the ancient style of Ethiopians present, how they present it. And how they used to do it was most of the paintings are painted in walls, like walls in a church or any big buildings. And the other way of presenting them was they will dry a dead animal skin, and then they will tie it around wooden frame, and then they will do the painting. So I've tried to bring that into the modern world. And one of the ways I did it was, well, most of my paintings are displayed this way. So these digital paintings will be printed on leather fabric. So this is a leather fabric, not a real one. I have lots of vegan friends, they will not be happy. This is a fake leather. And then I would just tie it around a wooden frame to kind of bring that ancient look into it so that it doesn't look too modern. And the other way was how I was thinking, how do I do the whole experience of seeing the paintings all around you in the ceiling and in the wall. And I started experimenting virtual reality, so like a VR. So this was my first do a VR artwork. I haven't done any since then, but it would be something that I would look into in the future as well. So what I did was I built a 3D model building, like a house meant to be like a church, and then I put all of my digital religious painting on the wall as a texture, and then I rendered that model as a 360 video so that people can be able to look around and see it. It's on YouTube as well. Let me see if you can see it. Here you won't have the same experience as watching it inside the VR headset. But what we did was we had the music, like a prayer music, and then we have all these illustrations around so that people can kind of experience that feeling of going to an Ethiopian Orthodox church. I'm just going to play it. So for the obvious reason, I won't be able to show you in the VR headset, but it does give that more strong sense of being in there with a VR headset. So, sorry, let me just quickly stop sharing my screen. Okay. Hopefully you can see it okay. So other than doing these digital illustrations, the other thing that I do is obviously animation. And if the animation I'm doing is my own project, I tend to reflect my own story, my own culture with a whole visual representation as well. But if I'm doing for clients, if it's a commission work, I do adapt other styles as well. I won't be able to show you all the animation I did previously, but I will be sharing with you my showreel, which is like a highlight of the different animation types I have worked on in less than 2 minutes. Enjoy. Okay, sorry, I've been informed that you can still see the YouTube video instead of my showreel. Bear with me. Hopefully you can see the Vimeo video this time. Okay, great. So as part of working in the animation industry, other than doing the creative side of it, I also work on the animation production side of things. And two of the projects that I've worked on is, one of them is Chuggington, which is a CGI kids animation TV show around trains. I have worked on Chuggington for about a year and 4 months. I started as a production assistant, and then I moved on to do work as a design and asset coordinator. And currently the project I'm working on full-time is the new CG animation Aardman is doing, called Lloyd of the Flies. I'm working on this TV show as an asset coordinator. The show is really interesting. It has is a hybrid animation. It has CG character and then the background is matte painted, and I'm responsible of making sure just the assets are coordinated properly. So this is another role I do in the animation industry. I'm also interested in film. Most of the films that I involved in are short films, and I involved mostly in editing. But I have made my own film about 2 years ago. I think it was in 2019. I went back home, Ethiopia, and made this 20 minutes long short Amharic film. It has an English subtitle and has managed to be added in over 5 international film festivals, and it has also won a Best Short Film award in Endiva. So as my first live action film, by live action film I mean like non-animated film, I was really pleased. I'm currently not doing any live action film, but it is definitely something that I want to come back to. And then the last but not least, my favorite thing to do is running animation or any creative workshops, especially for young people. I find it very, very rewarding. Again, I've been doing this during the last 5 years of my creative career. The first company that I worked with is called NextGen. With NextGen, we do short animation workshop for young people, mostly via the Princess Trust. And these workshops run for 5 days, and most of the young people don't have any animation experience, and it's really, really nice to see their progress by the end of from like Monday to Friday. And they usually come from a tough background, and you can just see their mood change. They get inspired, they make friends, and I just love doing creative workshops in general. We've done these workshops in Bristol, a few times in London, Cambridge, and Reading. I've also worked with the Creative Youth Network to run workshops for young people, and also with Watershed. But every time I do these workshops, I always have this strong desire to be able to go back to Ethiopia and do these workshops. And finally it happened. It wasn't like funded or anything. I just decided I really wanted to do it, and I'm going to go and do it. I've talked to Sean about it, and he introduced me to a professor from Ethiopia, and then he got me in contact with people that worked at the University of Debre Marcos, which is about 300 kilometers from the capital city. I was also in contact with another university called Saula University, which again was like 450 kilometers from Addis. But I went there and I did the workshop, and I was really pleased. The young people really benefited from it. It was like a therapy for some of them. They really enjoyed it. And they did really good animation. I was really pleased. And we used materials around us. We won't be able to do CG animation because of, it needs lots of machines and softwares, but we did a stop motion animation using things around us. For example, we did a coffee animation, like things using food like onion, lemon, and things like that. And this is a simple animation. I'm going to play it again so that you can see it. Just animating using things around them, pixelated animation, paper cut animation. So anything that they can simply find, and they loved it. And there were like, so when I went to Debre Marcos, I was expecting maximum 20 students for 3 days workshop. But when I went there, they had like 48 students registered, and they said I had to decide who I'm going to teach, and I don't even know them. So I ended up doing a 3 days intense course I divided the group into three. It was me. I was just by myself. I didn't have any assistant, and I didn't even have enough machines. So I had to divide them into three groups, so 15 students per day, and they were like, they picked at all the techniques really quickly. They refused to take a break. They were just working from 9 to 5, and I was really, really pleased. And it's definitely something that I want to do more in the future here in the UK and also in Ethiopia. I'm actually about to start a new course with Rising Arts Agency to run animation workshop for young refugees, and I'm happy to do that because that was how I got introduced to animation. So it's like, it feels like it's time to give back. And if anyone is in Bristol and know any refugees that might be interested, feel free to message me. And so that's me. Thank you for watching. If anyone has any question, you can ask me.
Rediat, thank you so much. It was lovely to see all your work. It's beautiful. I saw a real sense of movement in that work, and the colours are really beautiful too. I wondered whether you could tell me a little bit more about the colours that you've chosen and what you think those influences might be.
That's actually a really good question, because normally I grew up seeing this like colorful painting. So every time I draw, they just came back to me, and then I'll just use any colors that I want. But now, since I have started working on these illustrations, I have started receiving feedback from Ethiopians that know well about the meaning of each drawings, the character poses, and the color meanings. So each color has meanings, and so many of my paintings are not even like done right. So I've mixed all the colors. And even with character poses, I have been told if you see a character from the profile like sideways, then that tells the story that that person is not a good person. So on my latest painting, The Last Supper, I drew Judah from his side view. So I'm still like learning, and I'm sure like there's so many things for me to learn. But at the moment, I just pick just the colors that I love without just their meanings.
Yeah, they're beautiful, really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
To ask you about some of the work that you've done with the young people as well, because that looks really important, as well as you being sort of a role model for other Black animators or up and coming animators. What questions did you have from that, or what were people surprised by through the practice of animation, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's mostly to do with the question, and for the challenge for me as well, from coming from my background, was to make a decision to have animation as a career, to be able to take it seriously. People were like, how did you decide to do that? And people were like, is that all you do? You don't do any other job? And that was a struggle as well when I decided to do animation. There are lots of people from my community were like, Rediat, art, you can just do that as a hobby, you know, do health and care, and you can just do that on your side. So that was the challenging thing, and it still is what surprised other people. Yeah.
Wow, incredibly. Wow, they're beautiful, like I've said. And I was really moved as well watching the Christmas present one, because I realized that actually with those the smaller animations that you see on every day, you don't usually see Black characters in that. And I was immediately drawn, and then I noticed the aesthetic and the colors, and yeah, beautiful. I want to ask again about the Ethiopian artist and what your earliest memory of visual art was, and your influences, maybe as a child. Throwing the questions at you now, Rediat.
That's okay. Did you say what inspiration from Ethiopian artists as a child? Is that what you said, Jennifer?
Sorry, it broke up just at the last time. Minute. Could you say that again?
Can you repeat that question so that I make sure I understand it?
Yeah, discussed about what your earliest memory really was of visual art as a child, and again your style.
Well, my auntie was an artist, so we had her paintings in the house. We had her beautiful flower paintings, and we had a portrait of our family in the house as well. It was a different style. Hers is more like a European painting style, but I did remember seeing that. And she used to do sculpture as well using paper. She would wet the paper and then she would use some sticky paint to make sculpture. So I grew up seeing her doing that.
Right, and that's interesting because that's 3D.
It is 3D, yeah. That's true.
That's an influence too. Because I remember you said, I was saying to you, well, what attracted you, animation in particular, and you were talking about your creative process and how you've been a very creative person in different ways through different mediums. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
I think it's to do with, I don't know, the way I have been. Like I said, when I was young, I've always was interested in everything. Like I see everything, I want to be that. I think I kind of adapted that as a creative person, but also it's just the challenge not being able to find a job. I wanted to work in a CG animation company doing CG modeling, but I didn't find that job. So I had to kind of like find something to do. So when teaching comes up, I'll be like, yeah, I'll do teaching. And then I enjoyed it and I loved it. And the same thing with the technique. When people say we want to do animation, but we don't have the budget, we want to do 2D animation. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And then it would take me longer because it's not something I'm comfortable with, but eventually I'll just do it. So it's just a life.
So the more that you do of that, do the opportunities come in animation, or do you find it harder to get those opportunities?
It did came, but it wasn't like it didn't happen quickly. It takes so much like time. It's the people. You do one project would take you months, and then you meet people and they don't offer you jobs straight away, and then you just say bye, and then they will come back to you after a year saying, oh, Reddit, we've got this thing. So it did work at the end, but it's very, very slow process. Yeah.
How about what you're planning to do in the future? I loved seeing all the VR work that you did, and I'd like to come and experience that. Actually, it looks amazing. Do you think that might be something that you're involved with in the future?
Yes, definitely. I do have lots of future plans, the long one, the short one, the long one. So many things that I wanted to do. I definitely want to explore the VR, and I want to adapt that traditional story style to the modern virtual reality. It could be, I don't do games, but it would be something that I want to get involved in, to kind of change that to a game. There's so many amazing stories in Africa and in Ethiopia, just like to bring that into game. And I want to do research on the Ethiopian paintings as well. Just like I said, I'm not even doing the colors properly. I want to learn everything. And it's been tough for me to find information easily in regards to Ethiopian paintings as well. So if I do research so that people can find anything that they want from that research outcome, it's something that I want to do. I want to have a youth club, creative youth club, where all Ethiopian young people can come and learn. I want to have a production company as well. So many things, Jennifer.
That's fantastic. I did want to, talking about Ethiopia, I know you've been there very, very recently. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, I think we lost you.
I wanted to know what the situation was like in Ethiopia. Did you notice any differences? Because I know that the political situation is different there at the moment from when you grew up?
Yes, I mean, when I grew up, there was another kind of political tension back then, and then it was calm for years, and now it's not, as you know, it's not in a good situation. But what I was mostly in the southern part of Ethiopia when I went there last time, and it was quiet there. You don't really see anything there, and when you come to the city, you don't see much of it, but you can just feel the tension. When you turn the TV on, all the visual thing is not, it's like, it's all about war and soldiers. And then when you talk to people, people are refusing to invest anything in Ethiopia. Some of the people that I know moved back, are considering to come back. But personally, I'm very positive and hopeful that things will change. I hope it would change. I don't think it would get as worse or as as what people are expecting. Hopefully we'll come back to our senses and then everything will just be calm soon.
Thank you really very much for sharing that with us. I've got some questions actually in the chat, in the ask a question box. Somebody has said animation traditionally was a very time consuming art form. Is this still the case with digital tools?
Yes. Definitely, yes. I mean, the digital did make it's helpful. It did make some things easier, but in general, it still is a very long process.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Another question is, how did you, you were going to say something about timekeeping, Rede. I think that fits in quite nicely. You were going to tell us a story about timekeeping and animation and how it can take over your life.
Oh, yes. Animation takes a very long time, and I always forget how long it takes for some reason. I was telling Jennifer earlier that I did made a short animation for my wedding to tell a story how I met my husband, and I started working on it a couple of months before the wedding, but I didn't manage to finish it. Literally on my wedding day, my auntie was doing my hair and I was just rendering the final export of that video. So it takes forever.
I admire your dedication, even on your wedding day. So I've got another question here. How did you get the young Ethiopian response after the training? Do you have any plan to make Ethiopian stories for young Ethiopian and African children in general?
Yes. Did you say how did you get the response from the young people?
Yeah. So how did you get the young Ethiopians' response after the training? Was the first question, and the second bit was, do you have any plans to make Ethiopian stories for young African children or Ethiopian and African children?
Yeah. So to address the first question, the response was like, I wanted to stay there to teach them more, especially when they refused to go out for a break to get their animation done. And after I left, they've been messaging me, they've been sending me storyboards. I mean, not all of them, some of them didn't really like it. They didn't like the fact that it takes so long, because by the end of the course, they made a 2 seconds animation and they spent all that days. They were like, no. But some people were like really, really passionate about it. So yeah, it kind of encourages me to go back. And it's not just about having it as a career. It's more to do with they have other projects and they have other course, and they find doing animation was something different from what they usually do, and it was just like a fun, and it kind of wake up their creative side of their brain. So yes, it was positive. And regarding if doing animation about African stories and Ethiopian stories,
Ethiopian and African stories for children. What a lovely idea.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's one of my future plan. It really, there's a story that we already know, and like the songs that we grew up with, I do want to do animation, but if I do it, I want to do it nicely, because all African kids watch all this Disney stuff. So their expectation is high, and if I do it, I want to do it nicely. It needs budget, time, people.
Yeah, I'm sure. And yet you've got the experience, haven't you? Working on, is it Chuggington?
Chuggington, Lloyd of Life.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Watch that space as well. There's another. What was the art scene in Ethiopia like? Were you aware of one growing up, and what's it like now?
It's actually surprisingly good. There is an app called Telegram, which is like WhatsApp but better. They have lots of channels, creative channels, graphic designer channels. They do lots of CG stuff, and most of them are self-taught, and they watch YouTube and free tutorials, and they make amazing VFX, like visual effects, and they're very, very talented. But what I also noticed is they don't have like a professional support to put them together so that they can work together, fund them, help them grow. I think that is missing. But in individual, there's so many amazing individual artists in Ethiopia, really, really good ones. Yeah.
Have you got any names of people? Do you know any names of people that you would particularly follow or recommend?
There is a guy called Ma'arek. He does visual effects that are really good. And there is another girl called Beth Molla. She is a young illustrator as well. She does 2D animations. I really like her characters. Who else? Didn't think about this question, so
sorry, I've just thrown it at you.
But they're good. They're good, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. There's another that's come in. The visual style of your illustrations have a recognizable aesthetic from traditional Ethiopian art. Was that a deliberate choice or the natural style you always drew in? That's an interesting question.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of both. Every time I draw a stickman figure, it tends to have that face shape and then that big eyes. And when I do the colors, I tend to do these bright colors. But then when I start studying art and design at college, I've realized my rough doodle was different. I've realized it's been inspired by Ethiopian paintings. Then deliberately I start like developing that technique instead of adapting other things. So I think it's a bit of both.
So that's all the questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Rediat, for a really, really inspiring lecture. I'm just checking to see if there are any more questions coming in.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say, Rediat?
No, again, thank you so much for having me as part of this festival. I'm very thankful. And yeah, well done.
Well, it's great to have you. So thanks so much for contributing to this festival, not just through this talk, but also through your design. If you would like to watch this again, or you want to see past festival events, please go to our Crowdcast page. Details can be found in the chat. Also, look out for our next event on the 3rd of September. That will be a talk around the legacy of Empress Menen Afswa. And also on the 20th of September, Prince Afsa Wozen Asarati will be talking with Dr. Sean Sobers about his research into Blankita Heroi, a trusted advisor and past resident of Fairfield House. So, like I said, look out for the further events on Crowdcast page, and please like our Facebook page. I'd like to thank, obviously, Rediat for her fantastic talk, really inspiring, and also the Freedom in the Festival team. So that is Dr. Sean Andrew Hambleton, Keisha Nelson, Dawn Limbu, and Theo Atkins. So thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.